And welcome in everybody to the Auburn Undercover podcast, Auburn Undercover YouTube channel. My name is Nathan King, joined here by Jason Caldwell. It is the first day of Auburn bowl practices. They'll start out here on campus, be on campus for about a week, then get a few days off for Christmas, reconvene here the day after Christmas, and then they're headed to Nashville for obviously the Music City Bowl on December 30th against the Maryland Terrapins. This was a pretty important press conference today with Hugh Freeze. There's obviously a lot of roster questions that we've had. A bunch of guys have entered the NFL draft since we last spoke to Freeze, I believe, a week after the end of the regular season. And they've started their work in the transfer portal, and so getting a lot of clarity on a number of subjects. But we'll start there, Jason, with the big transfer portal questions, and the one everyone wants to circle around to is quarterback. And Freeze admitted today, he was like, I see all you guys on social media when a quarterback enters the portal, and they're like, that's the guy. But as you've been sharing on our website for weeks now, the feeling is that they feel very comfortable with a year two Peyton Thorne and getting better talent around him, getting better pieces around him, getting a better offense around him, mainly on the O-line. And at receiver, as of right now, it doesn't sound like they have any plans to go after a quarterback in the portal, and they're happy with Thorne. They're happy with guys like Holden Garner and Walker White as well.
Correct. I think you look and you go quarterback room, people ask, well, would Robbie Ashford make a difference? And we said, hey, it's not going to make a difference because he wasn't the guy that they were projecting to be in that rotation next year. I think it was going to be, hey, would you like to play another position? If not, but Holden Garner, Hank Brown, Walker White, the future of that position, and then obviously Peyton Thorne, they're like, hey, we feel good about where we are. And it's kind of one of these things where Hugh Freeze admitted it a little bit today. You have to decide how you want to build a football team. Do you either want to be, hey, we're going to roll all our chips in and try to win this year and be portal heavy, or, hey, we want to win, but we want to continue building a program and do that. And I think they've decided, hey, we want to go pick and choose where we want to go in the portal, and then let's make sure we're good everywhere else. And that's kind of what we've been saying about the quarterback position for quite a while. Can you get better everywhere else around you, then find out what you are at quarterback? Because we heard it for, hey, we heard it a long time at Auburn. This quarterback's not good enough. This guy's not good enough. Meanwhile, the position guys around them, they had not devoted enough to the offensive line and wide receiver group. That's what they want to focus on right now. And we heard it. Hey, Peyton Thorne, they feel good about the direction. And year two, that's the key. Year two, having a full spring, having that off season, all those things, how much can you develop and add to the offense? I think that's what they want to see.
Well, this is obviously a big stretch to make, but all three of the quarterbacks who were at the Heisman ceremony this year were all three transfer guys who are all three in the second year of their system as their new program. I'm not saying Peyton Thorne's going to be a Heisman contender. I'm saying
team-wise,
it makes a difference.
Offense, how much can you improve? And we saw but here's the thing. It was year one of the offense, but it really wasn't the offense until about 5 games left in the season. So you had about half a year of the offense. But just think about the Jordan Travises, the guys of the world that have done those things in a second year of a system, and how much better you can be. And again, can you get better around them? That's been the goal from day one at wide receiver, on the offensive line, all those spots. And so now you go, okay, what does it look like moving forward? I think that's the thing they want to see, but I think the goal has been, hey, let's get it better everywhere else.
And it's something we talked about on our podcast last week. There's not really, first of all, if you want to get a huge name quarterback, you got to pony up. And second of all, Thorne had a bunch of really good numbers at Michigan State when they brought him in. They wanted him to be that experienced transfer guy. Are any of these other guys really moving the needle past what Thorne was this time last year? I mean, he was this kind of player, an experienced transfer QB, and so now the thinking is by Auburn, look, we could go get one of these guys, but as Free said, okay, then you run off Peyton Thorne, then you run off Holden Garner. Now what? And as we've mentioned, many times on our site, they don't want to get in that cycle.
It starts a vicious cycle. It really does. Where then next year you're left going to get two portal quarterbacks because you want to have any experience or an experienced backup. Now you have a chance to build some experienced backup. You got an experienced guy right there. But you're right. Hey, let's just face it. In this day and age of where we're living in these times, to go get that guy would probably mean that there's 4 or 5 other positions that you don't get to go get a guy. Maybe it's a wide receiver that you want to get. Maybe it's an offensive lineman, a pass rusher, whatever it is. There's not just an unlimited amount of money if you're still recruiting high school kids too and knowing what it takes to do those things. So right now it's go, okay, where do we need to improve this roster? They felt like quarterback, we're good enough. If the guys around them are better, let's focus on that.
Yeah, we'll get also into the Music City Bowl prep previewing over the next couple weeks, but Obviously, Auburn has had, like we mentioned, since the end of the regular season, they've had some guys enter the NFL draft. 4 guys, the 3 defensive backs, and Marcus Harris, if I'm not missing anybody. Sounds like all of those guys have opted out of the bowl game with the exception of Jaylen Simpson. He's got a bit of a nagging hamstring injury. That's obviously something you want to go about properly when you're about to turn pro. You don't want to push it too hard when you're about to be entering the NFL draft process. But Hugh Freeze said, as we record this here on Saturday, that he actually had a conversation with Jaylen Simpson here on Saturday morning, and his entire intention right now is to play in that game. It's not a surprise. We know Simp, again, as we've said before, not that it's a bad thing not to play in the game, but he has expressed to us many times that he wants to play in that bowl game. But what it means is what we've talked about for a while now. Young defensive backs and young defensive linemen are going to get a big shot in this game, and those are a couple positions where they're really going to rely on them next season. So they obviously want them to get out there in the bowl game and see what they've got with them.
Yeah, I mean, look at it, 2 guys in particular up front. DJ Reed is a guy that hasn't played this year, but could see some action in this bowl game. But Bobby Jameson Travis is a guy that, to me, coming from the junior college ranks, got here late. Now you get a chance to really have a condensed 4 or 5 days of almost spring practice for him to kind of, get more reps, get those things, and get ready to play maybe an increased role in a bowl game. He could be a guy that really has a chance to break out in this game. And then look at DB. We've seen a bunch of Kane Lee already. We'll see more of him, but I think you look at it, a guy that we heard, J.D. Rim, was a guy that played a lot more last year than he did this past season. But you look at J.D. Rim now, maybe more of a true corner in this game. But we've seen whether it be Scott, there are a bunch of guys back there. You mentioned J.C. Hart is a guy that's a possibility. But obviously, Colton Hood, Terrence Lovett, safety.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those young guys in that secondary. They're going to have a chance to step in there and go. Tyler Scott would be one of those probably that would be in that early group. But, big physical kids that'll have a chance to go out there and play and to get a lot more action. And these bowl prep days are going to be really important for them. Yeah,
that's one of those groups that, as Auburn continues to do new roster management, continues to bring in transfers, this 24 class is going to be really exciting. Fans can't forget about what this DB class looked like this time last year. They're really excited about this group. They think that's the future of that secondary, and they'll have an opportunity to play here in the bowl game. I thought the biggest takeaway, though, overall from this entire day was Hugh Freeze continuing to be very transparent about his roster blueprint. And because he was asked, how's the transfer portal stuff going? Who are you targeting? And he was honest. He said, honestly, I don't think it's going super well for us. They have 1 transfer commitment at the moment, but it's more so that we saw those 2 offensive linemen. Vinny Scurry from Toledo committed to Texas Tech. Fernando Carmona from San Jose State committed to Arkansas on his visit. Those were 2 of their top guys. There's really no way around that. And so Hugh Freeze is saying, look, we're learning as we go along as a staff, maybe to get those guys on campus immediately and just make them say no right away if you think they're going to be a good target, as opposed to doing, sort of fluid evaluations. But Freeze said at the end of the day, this is going to continue to be a high school heavy. We see it right now with some programs across the country that want to win next year, and they're going super heavy in the portal. Freeze admitted, look, he said, I'm paying more attention to trying to close out a top 10 class in 24 than I have been the transfer portal. He said, is that the right thing to do? We'll see, but that's their plan right now.
Yeah, and I think you look at it, I think offensive line is probably the spot right now where you go, look, there are a couple things they're looking to. Offensive line is in so much better shape than it was at this time last year.
You're not scrambling.
Not even close. Yeah, now it's about certain pieces because they would like to move, Dylan Wade inside and play guard, and so you're looking for a true tackle. Scurry would not have been that guy, but maybe Fernando would have been. And now you look and you go, you got a junior college addition, a guy that's played a year of junior college football, he's kind of inexperienced but really athletic. Bring him into the mix. You have a young guy in Tyler Johnson that they feel really good about, but hasn't gotten much experience at all. How much would bowl prep, spring practices do for a guy like that to potentially be a left tackle as a redshirt freshman? Might be a little bit of a stretch. But no, you look at Tutal, a guy that they feel much better about after getting some experience at right tackle. You got some guys there. You got Jaden Muskrat. You got others, and Dylan Senda coming in. Yep. They've got some numbers on the offensive line. It's just a matter of kind of finding the right spots for them. And but yeah, it's a tough thing to do. To go, how do you deal with it? And I think they've learned that if you get a guy that's a portal guy, you can't set up a visit at the end of the month and wait and hope it happens. You better get them on campus first because these guys are looking to make decisions because they know there's a limited time frame.
Yeah, and it's very different, like he said, than the relational aspect of that, and that's what he talked about, is that is what he feels like Hugh Freeze's gift is when it comes to recruiting, is developing those relationships. A transfer guy, especially like a one-year stopgap guy, is looking at college in a very different light. It's not a college journey for him over the course of 4 or 5 years. It is, hey, I have 1 year left. I need to go somewhere. Maybe I'll be making a little bit more money. Maybe I'll have a better opportunity to make it to the NFL than my previous stop. So yeah, I thought that was mainly kind of the big takeaway from Freeze today. We will continue, obviously, to be here for practice the next few days. Won't be watching practice. We'll be around talking to players before bowl prep, and they head to Nashville. It'll be a really big recruiting day tomorrow. I know you and Christian are going to be. It's going to be a all hands on deck.
It
so
is.
You got the
It's gonna be
basketball
a
game.
big recruiting day surrounding an Auburn USC basketball game on Sunday. Heading to signing day on Wednesday. There could be some portal things happening between those days as well. And so, it's going to be a busy 4 or 5 days for sure. So keep it locked in. Like I said, we'll have bowl stuff all around that as well.
Yeah, for sure. AuburnUndercover.com. Jason Caldwell, Nathan King. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch y'all later.